I want to go through. So let me start my server. Got a little bit today. So yesterday we added the ability to have stars in the rating. We changed the form to have a select box, and we added that so people could add their own reviews to our recipe. So the next thing I want to talk about is the problem with somebody putting in a really high number for their reviews. So I know that people think that if I put it into a select box, that there's no way to hack that. That you're kind of forcing the user to choose a rating between 1 and 10. Right. I mean, there's too many ways to hack this. And I could. Wasn't it? There you go. Look at that. So yeah, it's too easy to change this. Even though I think I've locked people into a rating here, I proved that I was able to form the rating up your page displaying 100 stars, right? That's really bad. And it screws up your whole review average and everything. So we need some way of limiting that data and forcing it into a range that we want to keep it in our database. We want to keep our database only having 1 through 10 in it. So there's lots of ways to do that, but I'm going to show you a way in the model itself. As we haven't done too much in the model, so I want to show you a way of modifying the actual model, adding our own method to this so that we can make sure this rating here column stays within a range that we want. So this is the review model. It has the belongs to a recipe. That means that this sets up a foreign key relationship back to the recipe table. And these are the accessible columns, meaning that I can set those from an update command or a create command. And just like in our controller, we have a before filter. We have a lot of before and after filters in the model that we can play with as well. One of them is a before save filter. So I can say before save, I want you to run a method that I'm going to create. Remember, in the controller, we ran the authenticate method or something like that. So I can name this force rating. I'm going to call it force rating. So then I just need to define a method called force rating. And this method then will get called before every save to the database, before every change happens to the database. And this method is inside of this class, so it has access to all of these variables, all of the column data and everything before, and I can modify that data before it actually gets saved. All right? So remember last quarter we had the self dot method, which referred to the instance of whatever this is. So we're talking about the instance of a particular record in the database. So it's an entire row. The self refers to the instance of this class. And that class has all the data associated with one row in the database. So I could say self.rating, and that gives me what is going to be saved into the database before it actually saves it. So that's the value of what the form is submitting. Okay, so I can check that data and say, is it within some range? And if it is, allow it to go through. Otherwise, force it into something else. And remember, we did this with our DVD program. What do I call forcing a variable to pegging, right? I peg it at a top level or I peg it at the bottom level. So I can check is my rating greater than or equal to what? What is my topmost rating? 10. All right. If it is, then I want to set that value to what? 10, right? I want to peg it to 10. Then I can say, yes.
Because we accept 1 through 10.
Right.
So
You could.
we accept 0 through 10.
We accept 1 through 10.
I thought you were saying.
1 through 10.
So
Yeah, you could say greater than. It is. You're right. Fine. I'll take it out. If now I need to check the other side. What if they put a negative rating in? There you go. Self dot rating less than 1. Then what do I want to do? Self dot rating equals. Okay, so what we've done here is I've modified the data, and I've only modified the rating column before it actually gets saved. So when it comes in and it tries to save this record, it's going to run this method first and change that value for me so that my database is clean. It will not let them go higher or lower than that. So the easiest way to demonstrate this is in the console. So let's play with that. Let's find my 172 that I have some comments in. I can say, look at my reviews. I should have a bunch of them in there. 6. How do I create a new review on a recipe? Reviews.create. And I pass it some data like what what do I have in my, I have them up here, right? These 4 values. So I need the author is going to be Dave. My content is going to be, this is cool. And, yep, of course. And my rating is going to be 100. And my title is going to be cool. All right? So if I try to do that, it didn't work. How about that? So the reason it didn't work was because I made this change after I, so let's reload the environment and try it again. And it still doesn't work. Look at that. I just created it. Right, I have to save it. Because all that did was create it in memory. Thank you. And it says, okay, here we go, implement. And let's see, so a.reviews, sorry. It still didn't do it. How about that? Why? All right, so the problem was that I had started the console and the reload didn't work the way I thought it was supposed to, and so I stopped my console and I restarted it, which brought in the latest change to my model. And now when I created a new review, it forced my rating to be 10 because it was at 100. So let's do another one where I force my rating to be negative 100. And it comes out where it pegs my rating to be a 1 here. So it's calling my method correctly now. All right, any questions on that? Isn't that cool? So I can write my own methods inside of the model. I can do all kinds of other stuff which we haven't gotten into. I can write my own validators, things like that, all inside of the model. All right, so let's go and just re-look at my latest reviews. My 100 one should now, actually the 100 one got through, See that? So there's my 100 one. Before I had the validator in place correctly, and so it created one, and here's the one that pegged it correctly. So I've got 10.
What's your average?
My average is big. Got lots of nice things here. All right, any questions on that? That's a way of limiting my data. So now we need to be able to delete a product, delete a review, I mean. So we need a method that I left over in my review controller. I left the delete in here, the destroy of a review. And so I need to modify that because what it's doing is it would go back to the all of the reviews URL here, which is not what I want, right? I want if I delete something, what would I want it to go back to? The show page. So I'm going to go back, in my case, I'm going to do the same thing as if they added one. I'm going to take that whole respond block and make it redirect to my recipe path. And then I have to do something similar because I have that nested route. I have to get the actual recipe associated with this. And I get the params, it's the same line as here. Why don't I just copy that and paste that here? All right, so I get the recipe from the recipe ID because that's going to be on the page. And then I need to find the actual review. So I would look in the recipe itself. And I want to find the params of what? Not the recipe ID. It's just going to be my review ID, which is just going to be ID in this case. And then I need to call review.destroy to destroy that particular record in the database. That's going to do the SQL command for me to find the recipe, find the associated review, and destroy that. All right? And then I redirect to my recipe path. And that'll go back to the detailed show page of that one single recipe. All right, so that the destroy method is okay now. I need to now put a link next to my reviews so that I can actually destroy them, right? So where is that? It's in my show page of my recipes. In my case, your case would be your store, but in my case, I want to put it next to my reviews. So in my loop here that I'm looping through all the reviews, I need to add a link next to each one of them, right? Maybe next to the title up here. And I'm going to only do it for admins. So I'll leave that to you to put in. I'm going to put it in for everybody. But I'm going to put a link to, I'll call it remove. Thank you for auto. I'm going to call it, you like it eradicate better, remove. And then the path is going to be a little more complicated. Remember, we had a nested route, and I need both the recipe and the review ID. I need both of those IDs in order to destroy that record. So I can call the recipe review path, nicely gives it to me here, and I need to pass both of those values. I pass it in the same order that the method name is here. I pass the recipe ID first and the review ID second. So I need to pass two parameters here. And it's going to be the, in this case, it's the, this is an interesting thing we haven't talked about. If I have a review, A is my recipe, the actual recipe, right? If I look at a particular review, reviews.last, the last review that I have. This has its own ID, right? So B is an object pointing to the review itself, the actual review, which is what this object here is. So from that, I need to find out what recipe this review is associated with. And in SQL, I would do something like I need to query the foreign key for this particular review, right? So, but Rails has a nice way of looking at that. I can just say b.recipe. And it gives me the recipe associated with this particular review. It gives me the looking backwards from the review itself through the foreign key. I can get the object who is its parent. You could think of it as its parent. So from that, I can look at the recipe ID. So once I have that, I can say review.recipe. That gives me the ID of the recipe associated with it that I need in my destroy method. And then I just need the review ID itself. So I need to pass both of these values. And then since it's a delete, we can rely on the niceties of Rails, and we can pass this confirm. We want to confirm that you really want to remove this. And what does that do? Puts up a JavaScript alert to force you to say OK or not. And then we have to change it because of the RESTful routes. The method for a deletion is not a get or a post or a put, it's a what? It's a delete. So I need to change the method as well. It's going to post to delete. All right, so that's a long link. We're going to link to the remove. This is just what the text is going to look like in the link.
On the admin part, when you're doing that, can't you do that? Can you do an if statement like we did on
Yeah,
the other?
I would put the if statement around this link here.
Okay.
This whole,
Around
that whole block, this whole link. And I leave that to you guys to do.
Well, that's what it's not hard. It's already on
It's
there.
not hard, right?
We can't figure it out by now.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble. So here we go. Here's the links. Here's my reviews, and I've got a remove link next to each one of them. Isn't that great? So let's remove one of these big guys. And it says really remove the comment. That's the JavaScript confirm block that we don't have to write ourselves. Isn't that nice? We say, okay, it deletes it. It should have deleted it. Let's go and look at my yeah, the average is lower. So let's go and look at the SQL command. That's the one where it's getting all the recipes. This is where, here it is. So delete from reviews where review ID equals 9 in this case. So that was the review ID. Excuse me. So let's look at it. That big one is gone. Let's delete the other big one. And the redirect is happening. It's going back to this show page. And my average rating is back to normal again.
That's better.
Isn't that great? So I've got a remove.
Can you go back to the review code and scroll to the right? Yeah. Keep going.
So I need the method to be delete and the confirm. Those are those two things. And then I need to call my recipe review path. And this is where, if you look at the rake routes, let's run that just so you can see that. You can see why I had to come up with that. I needed two values here, and so I could pass that into this method that Rails gives me for this. All right, any questions on that?
The routes, how would you do it without having the do block?
For the nested routes, you wouldn't.
Because our store doesn't have recipe.
But I'm not going to the store here.
Well, you're not.
This is where it's posting to.
So you would do
So I don't care about this. This is going to post to the same place. Where would I fix once it posts it? This is going to be correct.
That's going to be correct.
Well, yeah, that's going to be the same. What is going to change is where I redirect to after that happens.
That's kind of what
In my review controller here, I'm not going to go to my recipe path. I'm going to go to my store ID path or whatever you have.
That's the one I just figured out today.
And that's the, you'd go to this store ID path here.
that's, I was messing with that.
So I have if I look at my delete recipe review here, this is recipe review path. Let's go back to where I was. Recipe review path. That is here. That tells us what it is. And I look for the delete method, which is going to call my destroy action in my controller. And this is the URL that's going to actually be generated. So you notice I've got two variables in here. I've got a recipe ID that I need, and I need my review ID. And that's how I came up with requiring those two values here. And that's going to call my review controller and my destroy action, which I already created. And that's why I had to do two finds to get those two values so that I could destroy the correct review. All right, so that passes it all the way through. Now, one more thing. What happens if I delete a product or an entire recipe that might have 100 comments in it or 100 reviews? If I delete the actual parent recipe that has these reviews, what happens to the reviews?
They stay there.
They stay in my table,
Yeah.
right? And they're orphans. So what did you do in SQL to fix that problem? Sang a song.
Go through and delete the children.
You'd have to go through and delete the children first, right? Delete all the reviews one at a time, and then delete the actual product. So we don't want any orphans in our database. Rails doesn't do that automatically for us, except that it has a nice little thing that if I destroy the actual product or the actual review recipe, I can do that in the model. All right? As it's being destroyed, I can look at my model. And in my case, it's my recipe. I have many reviews. And this sets up the relationship of a one-to-many, right? I have one recipe with many reviews. And it has a nice little feature. I can say it's dependent that if I destroy my recipe, I want to destroy all of my reviews associated with that. So when I delete my my recipe itself, when I delete a whole entire recipe record, Rails will generate the code now, just because I added this, to delete every single child review associated with that recipe.
Oh, that's cool.
Now you're deleting children.
Yep, we're killing children. Isn't that great? So if I delete this, let's look at my reviews.all review.all. This is a list of all the reviews, and they might be associated with other places. If I look at the recipe ID, it's associated to 172, right? So if I say review,
What's the difference between destroy and delete all? Is there a little difference?
up here, this is how you write this method. There's no delete all there. There are 10 reviews that I have in my review table. Some of them, in this case, they're all to my 172 product. So if I delete my 172 product, if I say A, that's my 172, A.destroy, then it goes and deletes that. And if I look at my reviews now, review.count.
Do you have to restart your console?
No, I shouldn't have to. Let's see. Come on. shouldn't have to. It's well, that's interesting. You're right that I do have to restart that because I changed my model. Right? So now I don't have my example to show you anymore. So I'm going to have to stop this. We're going to have to create some. Let me rerun this. Let me add. That guy's gone, so I can't look at that guy anymore. So let's go find my aggregate frictionless platforms. And let's rate this guy. And give it a rating, create the review. And so he's got reviews now, and this is number 219. So I can look this guy up. Recipe.find 219. It's got a review associated with it. If I delete it now, it should go away. And there's the SQL command to delete all of the reviews. I mean, here it is. This is the one that deletes all the reviews first, and then it deleted the recipe. So that one line of code would loop through and generate the SQL for me. I don't have to do anything else. Isn't that nice? Generates all the SQL for me. I don't have to worry about that. All right, one last thing is that in your assignment, you're supposed to create a bunch of reviews, some random number of reviews for every product. So where would I do that? In my seeds file, this is where I'm creating my recipes. And I created 50 different recipes here. So inside of this loop, I have my A is just a temporary variable that I could print it out to see what it is. But that's also useful now. Given a recipe, I could create some reviews associated with that. How did I do it in my console? I said a.reviews.create, and I passed it some random information. Okay, so I might have a I might have an author here. I might have a title is something like, actually this should probably be my company.bs, and my company.name should be name. I could do name.name. Better than a such and sons or something, yeah. And then I have a content. It's going to be some kind of ipsum. This is a test. I'm not going to do that for you. You can do that. And I have a rating. It's going to be some random number between 1 and 10. I'm going to give it 1. I'll let you guys figure that out. Yeah, you could do that. And so that will create how many reviews for this? 1. So how would I generate more than 1 of these? Put it in a loop. Okay, again, I'm not going to do that for you. You could do a random number of between whatever I told you, 0 and 10. Make sure it's 0 and 10, because I don't want to, some recipes I don't want to have a review on. All right? Or in your case, the products. Then I would just run my seeds again, and I would have reviews associated with this. If I run this again now, I will have 1 review for every product.
You'll also have a bunch of products that are already generated without reviews.
No, because I do this. I kill all my recipes before I start. Okay, now that I've done all your assignment for you, any questions? You have a question? I've done it all, haven't I? Yeah, I've done your whole freaking assignment. Yes? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, really? I'll have to play with that myself. It should be possible. Yeah. Yeah, you might be able to do it just in the show page. That's what you're trying to do. So now I've got my article here. Let's go look at my code. Look at my recipes. Make sure you change your navigation to match what we're doing at the time. Several that I graded, like you go to pages, it goes to your pages/products controller instead of your products controller. That's not realistic.
In your store controller?
Wherever. It's supposed to go to the right place, and it doesn't. So here's an aggregate one-to-one bandwidth, and I've got no reviews there. Look at that. No, it finished. So I have some problem with mine. I must have some value that's not creating here. So to figure that out, I could say something like b equals and say puts b.inspect. And that's very useful because these all got created okay. Oh, it killed all my articles too. So let's run this again. Any other questions? We'll look at pagination outside the class. Anything else? You had a question?
No, I figured it out.
Okay. Yep.
The question is not for the review, it's for the yesterday view.
Okay.
The problem is, because at home, the version is not exactly match at school. So, yesterday...
Well, that's your fault then.
No. The thing is that last night I run everything's good, I submit, and today, this morning, I come go here, doesn't work at all, then crash. So I have to...
You have to run the bundle command
Yes,
here.
that's why I do a bundle install, right?
Right, here.
Which is good. But when I do bundle install, it messed up the data.
No.
Yeah, they
Bundle
do
install does not mess with your data at all.
So I don't know why.
You have some other issue then. That does not modify your data at all.
So I got problem with the data, so then you cannot log in though.
That's a problem.
Yeah, but
Yeah, you're supposed to create me a user that I can log in.
I know I created.
Looks like you have
log in,
the
but
reviews
right now
there
you
now.
cannot. So they said it's a invalid either password.
Yeah. So it looks like they're there.
Maybe you just clicked on one that you didn't get. No, it is. You should get every single one. Every single one. That's right.
So I have a problem with my displayer here. I'll figure that out. Anyway, let's finish this.